I think Gareth over this last 3 tournaments, when I think of the problems we used to have with the media, the way in which that sort of us v them approach was there, Gareth's removed that over the last, I think, 5-6 years. He's also taken away that fear factor. I think where players have been comfortable getting to semi-finals to finals on a regular basis. Right. For the first time this tournament, I felt that they'd looked or sounded, just through sort of their interviews, little bits of sort of messages, body language, a little bit rattled. For the first time, this group of players under Gareth feel like they've been slightly impacted by it. They do. You know, I wish they weren't, but they look like they do. How did they get out of that? Because, you know, ultimately, I had this sort of, you know, in my pre-2000 career, you know, 2000, I had a really bad time in Euro 2000. I made the mistakes in the World Club Championship in Brazil and then went on to play...
He's not counting.
Yeah,
he knows more about your career than his own.
He's rewatched my whole 602 games. Every time I mention a game, he can recite it, literally play by play.
You know why? Because you didn't make that many, Gary.
OK, so basically, that 2000, and that was at Christmas, and then what happened was we got to the tournament with Kevin Keegan, and we got knocked out in the group phase, and Phil obviously made the mistake, but I played...
Romania?
Yeah, and I played really bad, and we got killed after that, me and Phil, to be fair. Phil more than me, but we got killed. Actually, after that, went under a little bit for 6 months. I remember just really, like, impacted by the criticism.
Yep.
But after that, you know, I did make big changes. I did go and see a psychologist. Yeah. I did stop reading newspapers. I did get some coping mechanisms. What do these lads do during a tournament now in terms of coping mechanisms? You know, I ask myself simple questions when sort of I get criticism. Did you always think that you were going to have a good day? Did you think you were always never going to get criticised if you were in the public eye? So these things put it into perspective. Do you think these lads have got these coping mechanisms because they're so young to be able to actually deal with it during a tournament?
Tell me one sports person who's had a career and never had a difficult spells. It's
happened.
It happens.
Yeah.
It's just happening more now.
Sometimes people get out of it quickly, as you said. If more,
some players can deal with it.
Teams around them. Not that you want to have a sports cycle. Sometimes it's just about playing through it. You have to get through it.
Yeah.
You know what? They play for big clubs. No, they can get through it.
Getting through it. So getting through it.
It's sort of your manager. Your
getting through it. So sometimes you need something though to help you get through. Sometimes it's time.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's time, but sometimes you need a coping mechanism. Sometimes you need a bit of advice. Sometimes you need someone. What do you think they can do in this? Because I think there is an element of some of those players feeling it a little bit.
Yeah, but that's where Garrett and his staff come into it, and management.
Managing.
We're on about when you're together, like the next 3 days, make training a bit lighter. Don't overanalyze the opposition. Don't build them up to be something they're not. Remind the players how good they are.
Yeah.
Have a 5-a-side, try and
remind them of the level they're at.
Yeah,
you know, because
confident.
Your job is, Brian, all these great managers I play, take the pressure off the players. Garrett's getting criticised a little bit, and he doesn't see him himself. But Garrett's had a load of plaudits. You have to take the rough and the smooth. Yeah. I would take it all away from the England players going, listen, you've done well, you're a talented player. Hey, get the selection, right? That's the manager's job. But also, like, England players at the moment don't look like, they're certainly not. And you can't enjoy every game. Sometimes you only get the enjoyment of the result. But it does look like a strain to him. A manager's job is, I'm taking that away from him.
And that must come
I think that's the management.
You know what? That comes
from the senior players.
Yeah, that's still, when you look at the amount of players that we've got in this team who lit it up for their clubs, and now they're at England, and the pressure that comes with England, you know, being in qualifiers and stuff, you know, obviously it didn't quite work out for me getting to the tournament. So I'm not really going to go into how it feels, apart from being at the tournament.
But you think that's more pressure than Kane is on a Bayern or Bellingham at
No, but this is what I'm saying.
Do you think it's more pressure at England?
I think there's
more pressure.
I think there's more pressure.
So?
There's more
I don't know.
And you know what as well, Roy?
No, I'll debate.
I don't know.
I think there is more pressure. There is more pressure.
There's more pressure.
And it's, you know, yes, they're at big clubs.
There is.
But there's a weight that comes with England that is different from the club.
So
it is different from the club.
At United, we were the club that had the most intensity if something was going wrong. So let's pretend, like, you know, the David Beckham leaving or Eric Cantona incident or when Roy had his incident. They were massive, monstrous issues which were really big at the time. But when England get to a tournament, it's almost like a pressure cooker that exists that I've never seen such scrutiny and at times, you know, annihilation of managers, of players.
Yeah.
Brutal.
You know what?
I never saw that at United from a point of view of... I felt like the manager 99.9% of the time would protect us from that sort of what would be, you know, that issue. I felt with England, a manager was unable to protect you. You were almost like you were on your own.
Was that just not in the games? That was around the hotel? That was there a tension constantly? Were you not... You know, when you hear about teams being under pressure, something that brings people together. Were the England players or the group not able to say, listen, it's us against them. Use that bit of energy.
I genuinely think because of what happened to Gareth after '96, what happened to Bex after '98, what happened to Phil after 2000, Rooney after 2006. I genuinely think there was a fear factor that if you were the person that made the mistake, you
And do you think that's in this group now?
No, but I think this group have removed that. I think this group have.
But they've removed it by playing well. By playing well.
Yeah, I feel like there's a little bit of, I wouldn't say the same type of fear returning, but there is a definitely a tension that's there.
Gary,
that
there
hasn't
is
been there
no way,
previously.
Gal, there's no way, God forbid, that if any of these players do something that they believe, the fans believe, the ones who are online, who are not even watching the games, they're watching the clips of certain things, right? There's no way that these players are not worried about doing something where the pylon comes. There is no way.
If it goes to a penalty shootout the weekend and you miss that penalty,
No way.
are you getting it yourself?
Absolutely. Absolutely,
the
Gary. It's
lads sit
literally
and
around the
read
corner.
all that, though?
It's not a case of them sitting and reading. It will come. That's in you because it's in the, you know, I don't want to go back to the Euros, but it's there. We didn't see that coming, but the people are waiting. There's people out there waiting online like kids waiting for Taylor Swift concerts. They're waiting for this. This is their moment to come in to say, right, I'm going to dig him out. I'm going to continue digging him out. I'm going to do. That is what's happening. We can't move away from the fact that it's what's coming to them, what they're afraid of. We can't have that many players who
Will
play
that always
well.
be there, Righty?
You know something? It's going to get
That's
worse.
after
It's
reaching a
going to get
final.
worse.
That's after reaching a final,
Yeah.
so it is always going
It's
to be
going
there.
to get
but
worse, and this is why we need to find a way. Like you ask, how can they deal with it, Gal? I can't sit here and say how they can deal with it. You said yourself, you went and saw someone. I went and saw someone. I've never had to deal with what Gareth had to deal with, what Bex had to deal with, what Rooney had to deal with, what people had to deal with. But I went to see someone because sometimes, Gal, you just feel, if you feel like my head's exploding because the amount of stick that's coming from you, I genuinely do not believe I'll be able to handle the pressure of what comes from social media now.
Yeah.
You only need to be a pundit and say something a little bit wrong and it comes.
Yeah.
So I don't know how the players can feel any differently, Gal, in respects of knowing that it's going to come. It's only 2 minutes ago that we saw what happened with Saka, Sancho and Rashford. The players know that something is coming.
Yeah.
Would that be the same with the French squad, the Spanish squad, the French?
Maybe because
I think
Football nowadays.
it has to be because it's
It is
worldwide the
football
way
nowadays.
that the internet is, our social media is worldwide.
But there needs to be a lot of like, look, lads, we're in this together. This is what we've wanted to do since, like, we're talking about football. We're talking about young lads, people's nephews, people's sons, going out and achieving the dreams. They're getting to represent England at a tournament. And there's only them going through that at that time.